always been fascinated by the old, abandoned house at the end of her street. Its windows were cracked, the paint was peeling, and the garden was overrun with weeds. The house had a reputation everyone in the neighborhood knew to avoid it. They said it was cursed, haunted by the spirits of those who had died there. But Emily wasn't like the other kids. She had a hunger for adventure and a thirst for the unknown that often got her into trouble. The stories about the house only made her more curious. What could be so terrifying inside that everyone was too scared to go near it? One stormy night, as the rain battered against her bedroom window and the wind howled through the trees, Emily made a decision. She was going to explore the house, once and for all. She grabbed a flashlight, put on her raincoat, and quietly slipped out of the house, her parents none the wiser. The house loomed before her, its silhouette stark against the flashes of lightning. The gate creaked as she pushed it open, the sound echoing in the night. She took a deep breath and walked up the overgrown path, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. The front door was slightly ajar, as if inviting her in. With trembling hands, she pushed it open and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. The floorboards groaned under her weight, as if the house itself was protesting her presence. Emily shone her flashlight around, revealing a long, narrow hallway lined with old, faded portraits. The eyes of the people in the pictures seemed to follow her as she moved, sending a chill down her spine. She could hear the wind rattling the windows and the distant rumble of thunder, but there was something else too, a faint whisper, just at the edge of hearing. Ignoring the creeping unease that threatened to turn her back, Emily pressed on. She explored room after room, each one more dilapidated than the last. The furniture was covered in white sheets, as if the former occupants had left in a hurry. She passed by a grand staircase that led up into darkness, but something told her to stay on the ground floor. In the living room, the wallpaper was peeling off in long, ragged strips, and the curtains fluttered as if touched by invisible hands. That's when she heard it again, a soft, barely audible whisper. "Emily." She froze, her flashlight beam darting around the room. There was no one there. She must have imagined it, she thought, but her unease grew. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Emily." Her breath caught in her throat. How did it know her name? Panic began to set in, and she turned to leave, but something caught her eye, a shadow, darker than the rest, moving along the wall. It seemed to have no source, no body casting it. It slithered along the peeling wallpaper, moving closer to her. Emily's legs felt like lead as she backed away, her flashlight shaking in her hand. The shadow seemed to grow, stretching out as it reached for her. She stumbled back, the flashlight slipping from her hand and clattering to the floor. The room plunged into darkness, the only light now coming from the occasional flash of lightning outside. The whispers grew louder, surrounding her, filling her ears with their eerie chorus. "Emily, stay with us." She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The shadows swirled around her, enveloping her, pulling her into their cold embrace. She felt herself being dragged into the darkness, her vision fading. The last thing she heard before everything went silent was the sound of her own name, echoing through the empty house. When Emily's parents realized she was missing the next morning, they called the police, and a search was organized. They combed through the neighborhood, questioning everyone, but no one had seen her. When they reached the old house, some of the officers hesitated, reluctant to enter. But duty overrode fear, and they ventured inside. They found her flashlight lying on the floor of the living room, its batteries long dead. But of Emily, there was no trace. The house was thoroughly searched, but it was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks, and the search was eventually called off. The neighborhood returned to its normal routine, but the old house remained a place of fear and mystery. And if you stood outside on a quiet night, when the wind was just right, you could still hear the faint echoes of a name carried on the breeze. Emily. The disappearance of Emily sent shockwaves through the quiet neighborhood. The once ignored house at the end of the street became a focal point of fear and morbid fascination. Children, once drawn to its mysterious allure, now crossed the street to avoid it. Adults, too, felt a creeping dread whenever they passed by the dilapidated structure. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed to have seen Emily's ghost wandering the grounds, her ethereal form a mournful spectre. Others insisted the house was a portal to another dimension, and Emily had simply vanished into it. The most terrifying tales, however, were those whispered in hushed tones about dark rituals and ancient curses. Local historians began to take an interest in the house. They discovered that it had once belonged to a wealthy and influential family, known for their eccentric behavior and rumored involvement in occult practices. Some old documents hinted at tragic events that had occurred within its walls, deaths shrouded in mystery and whispers of madness. As years passed, the house fell into further disrepair. Nature reclaimed it, the once grand structure becoming a tangled mass of vines and weeds. Despite the eerie reputation, there were those who were drawn to its decaying beauty. Urban explorers, thrill-seekers, and ghost hunters ventured onto the property, risking life and limb to experience the house's chilling atmosphere. Some claimed to have heard whispers, seen shadows moving in the darkness, or felt an inexplicable sense of dread. Others dismissed these claims as hallucinations brought on by fear and imagination. But one thing was certain: the house at the end of the street continued to cast a long shadow, a haunting reminder of the mystery that had claimed young Emily.